What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 28 of Drinks and Dogs. As usual, I have my brother KD Matthews over here. How you doing, brother?
Good. Episode 28.
You all right?
Like,
I should be speaking Spanish, but I don't even understand what that one was. So, very good one on that one.
yo hablo un poquito español.
See, I can't even do it even remotely, and I only understand it when I drink. That's like a weird. That's
Funny
like,
how that freaking works, isn't it?
it's super weird. Like it's like one of those things. Like me and Aaron discuss this all the time. Like I was like, I don't understand how we can go to like the taco truck at the end of the night after we've had some drinks, like, and I can basically be like as fluid as possible in Spanish, and then like sober, I'm like, what? Don't they está la biblioteca? Like, where are we at, dude?
Priorities, man. Priorities. That's what it is.
Dude, so it's been a while since we've talked, brother. What's the updates? How's everything going in 2023 now?
Yeah, New Year. That's right. We haven't spoken since the New Year.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New
sir.
Year as well.
All right. I'm gonna go straight into it. I'm gonna jump right into it. Full throttle.
Let's get it.
I had, and any of my followers on Instagram know, like, I get deeper on Instagram than I do on other social media channels, right? Like Instagram's my home, blah, 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 blah. People need to follow me at KD Matthews 1T. Talking about New Year's and New Year's resolutions, because New Year's resolutions is like, it's a topic. It's a topic that people, like, they're not all in agreement on. And like I say this as, it's Drinks and Dogs. The show doesn't say what we drink. It just says we have to drink something while we're on air. Protein shake. I'm not going to bullshit you, audience. Like, there's no alcohol in this. I'm drinking. Oh, look at it. He's got the Propel. Like, we're on the same page, man. Why am I drinking a protein shake? Well, you know what? I'm using the energy that the calendar provides to make some absolutely overdue changes. So what's going on with me? Well, I'm buckling things down for the new year. Things have gotten out of hand. Not even my personal life, but my professional life got out of hand. Like I got a lot of irons in the fire. I got another company I started, and I was talking with one of my mentors a couple of weeks ago. Shout out to Justin Garcia, Master Chim, and we were talking about fitness. Like I posted a video on my stories of me with like the mace bell. Mace, I'm doing mace work now. And I was like, I'm loving the mace. And he's like, yeah, what's up with that? You haven't posted any exercise videos, or what else are you doing? I'm like, oh, I just started doing that. He's like, what do you mean you just started doing that? I'm like, man, I've been neglecting things. Like I haven't been working out like I should. He's like, and he kicked me square in the nuts like he's supposed to. And like all your friends are supposed to. And I realized, man, like I have not been pushing my body the way I need to. I have not been taking care of myself physically the way I need to. So I started like totally doing a deep dive on Huberman Lab podcast.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andrew Huberman. Like, oh my gosh, holy crap. Like you start learning about like not just dog trainers who throw the word dopamine around because they paid a lot of money to learn how to use the word dopamine, or get permission to say the word dopamine.
Right.
Not that, like really learning about the dopaminergic cycle and how it works in organisms, and improving my sleep, improving my nutrition. So, New Year's resolutions. Let me ask you. So I'm not just blah. Mike, do you do New Year's resolutions? And if so, or if not, like, what are your thoughts on that concept, that topic?
I don't, because it's like one of those things where I'm just like, it's every day is a day, like just that's kind of just how I treat like life. Every day is just another day. Like there's no real like climactic point to my year. Like, obviously we say things in social media just because like, that's what people relate to. But for me personally, every day is just a day. Like I'm like, all right, cool. Like I got to get better every day because I got to make sure I have, my fiance, my daughter, like, my staff, everyone's good. So like, I'm always constantly doing this thing. I 100% get it. Like I understand, like why people do it. Cause it does like, it does become more of an inspirational thing at the end of the year. Like, all right, shoot, this year was tough. Let's go to the next year, get better, or whatever it means. But for me, it's like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's just a day, and like we just got to keep going. As you well, and like we'll have another conversation about this, but there's a lot of stuff in the going down with like Street League and all like Primal Canine and all those other things. And just in general, my life in general, there's a lot of stuff that's been happening. So I I just kind of treat it as that because like I don't like for me like personally I'd rather be like, oh hey, like I got to get better to like now, and like I can't wait for this thing. And I know me personally, if I go like, hey, if I'm waiting for this day to change, like this next day to change, like a lot of things can transpire in between those days, that'll be like that might be detrimental or like whatever it may be. Like that's the same thing we talked about too. Like when we talked to like the mental health aspect of dog training and being in that realm, like I feel like that all kind of correlates, right? Because we always want to wait to get better versus just trying to get better day by day, and just like teaching like going it that way. Like over here in California, there's a since we're all sunny all the time, when the weather gets bad, everyone kind of goes through a little thing. So we're dealing with all of that over there. So for me, it's just every day is just another day. It's just another day to get better, to try to get better, or at least make the best
Mm-hmm.
effort to get better and
Mm-hmm.
kind of continuously go through that.
I dig it. I dig it. And I totally understand. I mean, I live for the most part like that way of you're talking about like constant self-reflection. You're talking about like constantly evaluating where you are on your ladder, where you are in your journey, and checking, improving, like constant reevaluation, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Now, I do that as well. However, I'm currently utilizing whatever energy I can get, whatever I can pull from the universe. And in this case, the universe is giving me a calendar of dates that culturally we tend to look at and talk about making changes in. Now, there's a point that I have to make, and this is what I was making on my Instagram, because I mentioned that earlier. You said you don't really do New Year's resolutions, but you totally get it that people do.
Yeah.
I didn't do New Year's resolutions, but I was a dickhead about the topic. Like I was adamant about that's bull New Year's resolutions. If you're using New Year's resolutions, blah, 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 you should be looking at every day as the new year. You should be looking at every tomorrow as and now it was coming from a good place. It was coming from a place of trying to drive and pressure people to a place of power, strength, and growth. I wasn't doing it to take people down. I was doing it because I thought this would be a more powerful perspective to help them. And then someone whom I respect dearly, I've already mentioned his name once, called me out on that. But he did it in a real smooth way. He's like, well, here's how I look at it. And he presented an alternative position. That alternative position made more sense to me than my, at the time, position. Right. So he explained, he's like, why would you steal someone's energy? Like, if that's the energy they're using for everything you want them to use it for, why would you tell them that's the wrong reason to do it? Why
Yeah.
would you do anything to steal that fuel, that energy, that whatever that's leading to the same outcome if you truly want them to have that outcome? Like, why get in the way of that? And he said it one time. I sat there, I thought about it. I said, oh, I find that to be a superior position. And I immediately changed it. And the reason why that story about my position on New Year's resolutions, I the reason why I share it is because let's take what I did and put it in a different context.
So
Dogs, dog training. How many people are so adamant about their present position, but to the point where you present an alternate one and they're not budging. They're not even listening. See, I had no emotional attachment to my position. I just thought that was a quality perspective, and I'm going to share that perspective so to help people. I wasn't emotionally attached to it. So the minute someone presented me with an alternative position, I was like, I was able to reflect on it. I was able to go, oh shit, I never thought of it that way. Adjust, adapt, and I moved on. And maybe I'll change again. I don't know. But I don't want to have emotional attachments to positions that aren't morally bound by any code, or it's just a position. And how many people are just like, you tell them about why they won't use a pinch collar, right? They won't use a pinch collar because
or e-collar
whatever makes them, yeah, like how about we reflect on just different perspectives or different, oh no, because you have an emotional attachment to your idea. So everybody listening, whether you make New Year's resolutions or not, your New Year's resolution is to have less positions that have emotional attachments, be more objective so that you're not a dick.
Well, I mean, I think there's a quote that I read like years ago, and it like stuck with me. And like in this last year, it kind of like actually solidified. He's like, there is no individual, there is no one reality. There's just individual perspectives. So like, just in general in life, right? So like, there's no like, because we all live our own different life. We all have our own perspectives in it. Like, so the reality that we think that we are seeing is a different reality than what somebody else would see, right? Like, obviously there's the one big world as far as like what we're living in, but like that's kind of like the realm that like for me, like it helps me like kind of like thinking about that way. It was like, because I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like everyone just living their own just different life. It's just what it is. They have their own perspective, whatever it may be. Obviously there's right and wrongs, like don't kill people, like don't like don't do like dumb shit, like obviously that's with dogs, like things of that nature, like treat everybody nicely, but everyone's always living their own perspective, their own reality. Like that's one of the things like I think about a lot of times when I'm like frustrated with, especially in our industry, like frustrated with everything and everything that's going on. But yeah, that's kind of the one of the quotes that I live by. Just I think about all the time.
Well, then, to further dig down that rabbit hole, it's like, all right, so yeah, it's just a bunch of perspectives. Then it becomes, what are those perspectives based on?
Exactly.
Are they based on emotion? Are they based on a moral compass? Or are they based on objective observation of things around you through a lens of like
What
not
influences it?
emotion? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I had to actually do a shout out to our sponsors before we go deeper into this. Shout out to Ray Allen. They are our main sponsor here. Make sure you go to rayallen.com/K9SL. Use that Primal K9. Is it Primal 10? Or is it Primal K9 or Primal 10 code for your discount? Katie, anyone you need to shout out here right now?
No. I mean, no one, like whoever made this protein ain't sponsoring me, so they don't get a mention. That's why I put it in an unmarked can. I'm not drinking any, I'm not wearing any labels unless it's Ray Allen or Primal, because like that's who is taking care of me, taking care of us, and taking care of people out there.
Have
So
you done? I know before, and this is the question I wanted to ask you a while ago. Are you considering going back to the carnivore diet?
I don't, yes, but I go pure carnivore for very specific reasons. And I do not anticipate going pure carnivore for any, like, as a lifestyle. I use it as a tool to adjust my blood sugar, my insulin resistance, and my relationship with starches, sugars, and food in general. So the I am primarily meat based. Now, November, December, it was yummy food based. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving forward, as I'm back in the gym, I'm back working out again. I'm trying to ride my dirt bike more to get ready for race season. Like, I have to take care of my body. So right now I am meat based. I do now, like pure carnivore people would like have a problem with this.
Oh shoot, really?
Oh yeah, because it's like that's processed. It's protein powder. You know what I mean? Like I still have my
Uh,
protein shakes. I like them. I enjoy it. I'm not a zealot in any of these things. Um, probably next month I'll do another. I did a fast recently. I want to do a 5-day fast. So I'm thinking either next month, depending on my schedule, or maybe March. Now when I come back from that extended fast, I will do pure carnivore
okay.
for probably like 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days, just to get all sugars, everything balanced. But that's not a lifestyle for me. I don't think it's just, I personally don't think it's sustainable um, for me.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for anyone to sustain it because if you're going to go pure carnivore, you have to have a love affair with an awful, however you say it, organ meat.
Yep.
You have to have a love affair with it. And I don't mean taking like desiccated liver, the pills, like the stuff you gave me. Like, I
Yeah.
don't mean that. I mean, you have to have a love affair with eating organs if you want to safely and responsibly do carnivore. I don't have that love affair. So, I like sweet potatoes. I like jasmine rice. I love fruit.
Yeah.
So that's what my long-term nutrition kind of regimen is very meat based, lots of red meat, lots of fish, and fruits and starchy vegetables. I really don't do green vegetables. And I supplement with liver supplements. And I got a new idea for the liver. I'm going to start cooking the liver and then chopping it up after it's cooked into little pieces and then freezing it and taking the cooked. I'm not doing that raw liver. The parasites in raw liver scare the crap out of me. So I don't like, they're bad news. They're like
Yeah. It's
not
horrible.
not good stuff. So we're not talking about like diarrhea for a couple of days. We're talking about like some organism living in your body and destroying your life.
Like you're going to the ER.
It's like getting married.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bang.
hey yo, ring the bell, ding 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 ding. Um, so I'm gonna chop it up and I'm gonna start so I can consume real liver as opposed to processed or pill form, but I don't have to taste it because, dude, I can't. Okay, let me ask you: can you do liver?
I I can, but it's forced. Like it's like one of those things where I'm just like, I just gotta like shoot it like that. Like it's like eat, boom, done. I don't enjoy it. What like you said, like you kind of have to have like a love affair with like the or like the organs and stuff like that. Like you have to like want to like eat it. Like for me, like it's one of those things where I mean it's like I'll compare it to this like my daughter, right? My daughter is very particular in like her food, like very particular. So like she's just like it's a struggle for it, right? She has like she doesn't want to eat, like she has this whole anxiety about it. So like, for me, like I'm always like telling her, I'm like, all right, look it, I'm eating this stuff just because it helps me get better at doing like what I need. Like, in that sense, I don't enjoy it, but I do it just because I do it. That's gonna help her with that. But like for the same thing, like for me, like I don't eat like organs and stuff like that just for the simple fact that I like it. I do it because it serves a purpose for me. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's not a sustainable thing in that sense, especially. And the thing too is that like just the quality of organs, quality of what you get, because you can actually get sick from that stuff. And like out here, like the quality of like certain meat is not the greatest, or certain organs is not the greatest. We don't know what's going on, so that's why I got those like pills. That's the ones that I gave you. I was like, oh well, I'm not eating, not eating these anymore.
Yeah. So right now I'm not taking those. I will add them in. So my new regimen is I take the what do you call it? Oh man, good up that it's a root. Oh, Tonkat Ali.
Oh, dude, I've taken that too.
I just started, so I'm like 2 weeks in. I take two pills of Tonkat, and then next week I move up to 4 pills, and then I take a collagen supplement. Um, because like my joints are just they're not feeling too good right now. And especially I know I'm upping my activity level significantly.
Yeah.
So I'm taking collagen and boron, take about 600 milligrams of boron a day. no, 900 megs of boron. And
Yeah.
probably next month I'll add in some of the stuff you gave me. Like I got tons of liver, desiccated liver. So I'm not gonna buy any more. I'm just gonna like take all the stuff I have saved up.
Add in beetroot. Telling you, beetroot supplements. Add in beetroot supplements.
Really?
Like that thing's been a game changer for me because I do the Tonkat, and I have like I have a whole jar full of like crazy stuff like that I take all the time just to maintain like the stuff I gotta do every day. But this beetroot supplement for like energy and just like basic overall health, like I'll send you a picture of it.
It's better than cocaine?
Uh legally don't know if we can say anything better than that. But
Beetroot, beetroot. All right, there we go. Beetroot.
beetroot. I'll have to send that to you.
Uh, but cool. Yeah, I'll check that out. Check that out. Yeah, dude, I the things that we're busy. We're busy folks.
Yep.
And it's like how many so now listen, this is you and I know, and some of our loyal followers, this is a lifestyle podcast, right?
Yep.
So it really is like everything we're talking about is totally appropriate for this podcast. However, if people really pay attention, I don't think there's anything that we talk about that isn't applicable to the life of the working and still managing a life with dogs dog owner, or in particular a type of person who I've been speaking with more and more, and that is the dog business owner, the dog
Yep.
training entrepreneur. Like, folks, if you're running if you're a solo entrepreneur running your dog training business, then yeah, this is probably one of the most important things we'll talk about today is supplementing and diet. And like, because oh, you eat McDonald's every night because you're so busy. Yeah, guess what? You're an up. At the beep in there. I just did the courtesy pause. You're up if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not getting enough sleep. And there's some folks out there, and for some people, it's a what's that word? What is it? Young people say flex. So it's a weird flex. Some people, it's a flex about the grind. I was there. I was flexing about the grind until my personal life was a shit show, until my body was an absolute mess. Well, what there is the flex in that? Oh, I'm working so much, but my body's a mess. Oh, I only got 4 hours sleep. That's not a flex.
I got
That's
a
bulking up.
I got a perfect segue to that. So obviously, like everybody knows, like me, like everyone knows, like how I work, and running miles and working dogs, and the businesses and everything that's going on with that stuff, and like all the stuff that we have going on. So in December, I had a very hefty burnout. Like it was like I was freaking like my body itself went basically was like, you know what? We're done. And even like my mind went like, we're done. Like, it's like it's it is what it was at. But then I ended up using, when I was doing this stuff like that, I was all right, we're still working, we're still going through it. We're going through it. And I thought about this like very seriously, because I thought I was like, okay, like, I had a lot of stuff in my personal life and business life going on. And I was like thinking as a man, I was like, the reason why I felt like that the burnout happened was because at certain points in like the business aspect and dog training, because you're constantly just working, like you're training dogs, you're talking to clients, you're answering phone calls, you're doing the day-to-day of dog training. And then when you talk to people and like everyone's like, oh, like you need to chill, like so like you have that counterbalance in your head where like, oh, like people are saying like you need to relax, you need to do this, but like we talked about it earlier, the individual perspective is very important, because what happens if you don't do that, you feel kind of like lonely in that aspect of things. Like you're like, okay, which triggers more of that, like like burnout, right? So for me, like I was like trying to relate to people that couldn't relate to me. So I felt like, oh, hey, like maybe I'm doing this thing wrong. And then it went boom. It went like, just like the burnout happened. Like after Street League, you know how hard we worked on all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through that. So it's like for me, when I went through that process, I understood like, oh hey, cool, don't don't take outside perspective. Don't take anyone's outside perspective, understand the reality to influence your life. Because at that point, then you're just gonna be like, you're gonna try to get to this point when if you just live in your life in itself, like you live your life yourself and you understand like, oh hey, like I'm this person, this is what I'm doing, this is what I got to do, and then you like kind of don't take any of that stuff. Obviously, take care of your body, take, like Katie said, take care of your body, take care of yourself, make sure you're doing that. But if you're on your journey and you're doing your journey, don't let anybody influence that. Because what will happen is if you start losing that, you start trying to adapt to anything else, like you're just going to reinforce your burnout. Like my whole year was dealing with freaking, you know apprentices that were just like wanted to do half of what we were doing, wanted to relax, wanted to do all these other things, wanting to enjoy what I have to enjoy, but stuff like that. But me, for the most part, my schedule is grind. Like that's just like me, like that's just my own perspective in that sense. Well, and Katie, you know that very well since you've hung out with me a few times this year in very stressful situations.
I think we've only hung out in stressful situations. I mean, we got to hang out that one day afterwards, but like every time you and I are together, it's go time. That's why I got to make it, dude. I got to make a non-street league trip
You
to
come up,
California,
bro.
like where there's no street league going on. Now we're gonna do some street league stuff, but it's like we're not on trial day. Like we can actually sit down and talk and work some things and then maybe actually do some fun dog stuff. Um,
Absolutely. I think the only time that me and you hung out was when I was extremely hungover and dying after like the was trial two. And then when you did that crazy ass across the country freaking
yeah,
drive,
yeah.
that was literally the only time. And I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. Like someone help me here.
That's when I came over to the house and you
Yeah.
showed me the deck and I fell in love with the deck.
Oh, that's definitely happening. We're definitely doing a drinks and dogs on the deck episode when it's not whatever the hell this is storming.
What is okay? So yeah, this is just totally selfish curiosity. I mean, yeah, we were talking about mental health for dog trainers. We'll talk about that all the rest of this season. Dude, what's going on in California right now? With this
So
monsoon, it's actually like raining there. It's not paradise for like a couple days.
so the thing with California is that the weather's not really bad. It's not like we're dealing with some like hurricane or anything crazy. Like we're dealing with what they call a bomb cyclone. That's what they're calling it, or what it is. But it's always sunny here. It's always hot. It's always, like there's always like there's no
It's
real,
paradise.
yeah, there's no bad weather. People can complain about the fires and everything like that, whatever it may be, but like there's no real like preparation for when bad things happen, right? So when bad things happen here, whether it might, like for example, like if this storm hit Florida, people would be like, ha,
Yeah, we'd be partying.
and like fun stuff. But like over here, like no one prepares for like the reservoirs, the gutters, all these things. So like right now, what we're dealing with is we're dealing with the worst storm we've had in 35 years. And it's basically like mudslides. Like for example, like I had to drop my daughter off at her mom's house this morning, and I couldn't take her to school because the roads essentially are closed to get to her school. And there's like reservoirs that are just basically full to the top. Like the reservoir that you passed by when you drove
Yeah,
into the house, that thing's to the brim. Like it's all the way up there. So it's like it's basically covering land. And like we have like our house, like I've been posting like just funny videos of like freaking the creek we have next to our house. Like
yeah. It
that
was
thing,
dry when I was there. Like there was no water in it.
yeah, dude. Like so it's now it's not. It's like a waterfall. It's
Oh,
crazy.
is that the video I saw with Wayne?
Yeah, so we that was the bottom of our driveway, so we had to break in the actual like in our weather, and we were just like, oh hey, like let's bring staff up and let's use the creek for all these other things. And now that whole entire creek's just like nuts. Like I was out at like 4:30 a.m. this morning, clearing out like brush from that little tunnel. So it didn't fill up, and we didn't get flooded out. So
Is the water cold?
nah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like shit, man. When you're doing that stuff, you don't really know. It ain't bad.
I was gonna say you could like Wim Hof and go out in like a little speedo and just
Oh,
like
dude.
sit in the waterfall for like 10 minutes and like center your universe under the cold water.
Oh, I already did that like last week during the bomb cyclone, whatever they called it, or whatever the thing was going on. But yeah, and Cali's a little funny. So speaking of that, KD, animal clothes, dog clothes. What's up with that post? We didn't get to talk about it before.
Oh, yeah. So I did a little listen, this disclaimer. You know, a lot of people follow me on Instagram, which they should. My Instagram is awesome. Whoever edits this should put the little at KD Matthews, boo, pop it up in post production. But yeah, at KD Matthews, that's my Instagram. Well, on Facebook, which I do have a Facebook, we all have these Facebook things. I'm on Facebook out of necessity. Like it's you gotta have it. But I use my Facebook very differently, and oftentimes my posts, they're just social experiments. It's just me learning about how people think, how people interact, and it's are some of them meant to trigger? Absolutely. Are some of them meant to evoke emotion? Absolutely, because then I can teach people not to allow emotion to interfere with their thought. And that's exactly what I did with this particular post that I had put up recently. And the post, which it only makes sense for the people listening to this, I will pull it up. What I wanted to do, and I was talking, and while I'm pulling this up on my computer, I will kind of give the backstory. So I have a mentorship group. That mentorship group is rather unique in that I have put together a group of very hungry, eager, enthusiastic pet dog owners. And I use those words very intentionally and carefully. Like they're former clients, like people who were in my my Canine Blueprint program, but once they learned about their dog, once they learned about dogs in general, they became obsessed and they wanted more. So I was like, all right, let me put you all together in a group. And then I also put dog trainers in that same group, dog trainers who want to learn more about how to communicate with their clients, how to help shift the perspective, the mindset of the dog owner that is paying them money to help them. So I put them together in a group, and one of the things I did was I made this post so that they could watch and see how people are influenced by emotion to the point where they will see things that aren't there, they will read things that weren't written, they will hear things that weren't said. So this post was really for my mentees, for some other folks too that I speak with outside of that group. I wanted them to watch what happens when I push some buttons. So here are the buttons I push. Now I'm going to read this word for word. And for those who are hearing this for the first time, I'll pause. I'll pause for a second. And I want you to think about, this is an exercise for all of you listening to this. I want you to think about, if I were to ask you, what is the message of what is the purpose of this post? What is the position of this post? That's what I want you to think about. And I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it, and then I'll spill the beans. All right, here we go. Nope. Your dog doesn't love its winter clothing. Your dog loves going outside in the refreshing cold. Because you put clothing on the dog before you go out, the clothing represents the fun to come. That's why they get excited when they see the clothing. It's no different than the leash. You love the clothing. Now, please take it off when they get inside so they don't get it snagged on something and get hurt. Oh, and if you're mad reading this, realize that indicates that you have an irrational and emotional attachment to putting clothes on your dog. Reading this challenged that attachment, hence your emotionally fueled reaction. It's It's not a good thing, FYI. Just ask your therapist next visit. So the question again is, what is the message of that post? What is that post saying? And I'll give you a further hint. I'll help you out here, folks. Is that a pro put clothing on your dog post, or an anti put clothing on your dog post? So now, Mike, I'll ask you. Well, you read it. So I can't, like, this isn't authentic, like, oh, you just heard it for the first time. I know you read this post. So let me ask you, and I know you'll be honest, when you read the post, did you think it was a pro clothing post, an anti clothing post, or something altogether different?
I thought it was something different. It's just equipment fixation. It's the same thing. You know, you put equipment on the dog, they know they're doing this. Like, you know, like that's, to me, that's what it was. There was like, but also like, you know, obviously me and you talk a lot. Like, you know, there's no emotional attachment to that. Like, you know, I mean, for example, like my fiance Erin, like she lived in you know, Minnesota for a long time. Like I don't think there's, besides like, you know, the below zero stuff where we had to take the dogs out, like the dogs actually had to be like, oh, like okay, like we put stuff on them, but like for the most part it's just an equipment fixation thing. Like then in my thought, with that was, in my thought I was like, okay, it's like putting a collar on a dog, putting a harness on a dog. This is what it is. But I do see how that social experiment, when you did post that, I was like, oh, Katie's gonna piss some people people
Yeah.
off because it's
So what
coming.
happened was the comment section just, of course, blew up, and it happened. There were no surprises. Let me just put it that way. There were no surprises. People, the majority of the people, were like, they immediately started defending
Yep.
putting clothing on dogs. And you know, when it happened, I'm smiling, right? And there were some people I just ignored. Some people ended up getting blocked because I don't play that shit on my page. Get disrespectful, you get snotty, just get the hell out of here. There, so there were certain individuals who I just felt like kind of taking it a step further. So when they started explaining about why and when it's appropriate to put clothing on a dog, I would follow up with something like, why did you just say that? Of course, they're
Yeah.
like, what do you mean, why? I'm like, well, this post has nothing to do with whether or not you should put clothing on a dog or not.
I
Where
think
did I? And then I would challenge them. Do you think this is a pro or anti? Maybe you should go back and read it again. And like some people, like, I did read it. And that post has nothing to do with pro clothing or anti clothing. And even some of the people who were like, yeah, that post is awesome, I think it's because they thought it was an anti clothing post.
yep.
Now, there were some people who saw, the first one who pops into my mind is Christy O'Malley. She jumped right in and was like, people, he's not saying anything against, he's talking about associative learning and classical conditioning. Like, she jumped right in. And I was like,
She's a
yeah, that's
gangster. She don't care about any of that stuff.
no, she says what she thinks 24/7. If you don't like it, deal with it.
Yeah.
But she knew exactly what I was saying. And you know, there was a couple other people who were, you know, they realized what I did. They might not have known why I did it, but you know, some people are like, well, maybe you should have worded that better.
So that's not one thing. Like I'll say this right now, and we should segue. So we talk about this, the mental health of dog trainers. Like when you on and social media and the use of social media, sometimes when you post something, and a lot of guys, a lot of people in general, when they get on there, like social media is given this for some reason, like right to people to just be a dickhead.
Yeah, because you can't punch them in the face.
Exactly. And I remember
That's it. That's the sole reason. You can't punch them in the face.
yeah, like because you can't just fucking smack them. So I'm like, I feel like that's something like where we need to be like, you know, and this is what I love about Drinks and Dogs, where we need to be like more vocal about it, like where it's like, hey, like if you're a dog trainer and you're on social media and people are talking crap to you, I think it's like it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be like that, but I think there's a certain level of accountability that we need to start holding people to when it comes to what they say. Because a lot of the times, like for me, for example, like I someone said something stupid to me, like I remember that, and like if I see you, there more than likely will be a problem. Yeah, like that's just like that type of person that I am. Like that'll happen. And like even like with your post, like I put it up there, and I didn't think I think I deleted maybe one comment on there because people were like talking about this. Like, they're like, why are you taking so much offense to this? Like, this is literally
If I had said your dog doesn't love the leash, your dog has an association with the leash meaning go outside, I fucking guarantee you hardly anybody would get in their feelings. But the reality is, like I said in the freaking post, if you're
yep,
upset, it's because you have an emotional attachment to the clothing and you think I'm challenging you dressing Fufu and Fifi up in unicorn pajamas, which you shouldn't be doing anyway, because if they're inside, they shouldn't be wearing that stuff. Like, but I absolutely 100% support the appropriate usage of supplemental clothing for dogs, certain dogs in certain environmental conditions. Now, if you put a coat on a Great Pyrenees, I'm going to call you out for being the that you are. Like, you're a freaking idiot. If
yep,
you put a coat on a Malamute or a Samoyed, you're stupid. You're
yep.
dumb. And I have no problem saying that. I don't care who you are. You're dumb. Come at me, bro.
Do
Catch
not
me
yourself.
outside. I won't have a coat on. I'm a Samoyed. But anyway, like, but if you have a Chihuahua, if you have a Whippet, if you have a Greyhound, if you have a Pit Bull Terrier, and you live in Minnesota, you know what? You might want to put some booties on that dog. Or depending on how long they're going to be outside for, depending on what the weather is on that day, if it's like 15 below, you might want to put a jacket on. That dog just physically isn't equipped to deal with that. They're just not. But if it's 45 degrees, you better not have anything on it because it's probably going to love it. But at the end of the day, it goes to show the power of how emotion influences thought, because people read things I didn't write.
Yep,
They thought they heard things I didn't say. And that's super important for everyone. And I talked about this in my mentorship group, like with my dog owners. I mean, they're not dog trainers, they're regular people with dogs. I'm like, guys, this applies to your professional lives. This applies to your personal life. This applies to everything. And then to dog trainers, realize like we if you don't recognize the fact that to a certain degree you're a psychotherapist as a dog trainer, then either your business model's off or maybe you're in the wrong job. Like, I don't like, there's room for us to talk. Like, if you haven't picked up on the fact, maybe you're doing it and you just don't know that's what you're doing. um you're not aware that you're being a psychotherapist. You are providing counseling and therapy and emotional guidance for people who oftentimes need it badly. um this is relevant because people have these triggers and they have these emotional attachments. And if your job is to change your client's current perspective, which most of the time it is, you have to know how to navigate those emotional objections that they have so that you can impart the information, the knowledge, whatever it is to them ultimately, so that they can accept it, absorb it, implement it to some degree with their dog and improve their life with their dog. Like, that's part of your job. I do a lot of work with dog trainers just on that. Like, I'll take posts I find on Facebook and I'll put them into my WhatsApp chat group and be like, all right, guys, everyone write up a written response. It's got to be written. Like, you have to use the written word to communicate how you would respond to the situation. And then I make them read it out loud to me and we go through it and we talk about, like, why'd you say this? Or why didn't you say this? Like, that stuff's important as much as learning how to hold a leash is important, and learning how to deal with this and that with dogs. Like, man, you got to know how to navigate people's dysfunctions.
that is 100% more. I mean, like dog training isn't dog training. Like it definitely isn't, especially when you're talking to
Not anymore.
people.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, like it's no longer that. like as we progressed, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to use the word progressed. As the world has changed, we're no longer dog trainers.
I respect that correction you just made, by the way.
I have to because let's say I live in California where it's like the most, whatever it is. But like as the world has changed, we we are no longer just the training a dog. Like what Katie, like what you're saying, like it's like we are now helping people. We basically become therapists. Like we like that's just kind of what it is. And like that's what I teach all my guys. Like for example, I had two guys move in from one from New Mexico, one from St. Louis, Herman and Wayne. And like these guys come from different states and they come over here. I was like, hey, I need you to be prepared because you're no longer just training dogs. Like you're now just we're helping people. Like this is what it is now. It's we're helping people with their dogs. We're no longer just dog trainers. Like we're doing this. Like this is what's happening. Obviously, dog training comes into the fact of it, but now we're just like now we're helping people with that. So you have to be able to help these people with their problems because if you communicate with them in a different manner, it's going to be an issue. Like in the business aspect of things and for the greater good, at least for like what we're doing at Primal Canine, it's like yeah, like we're not going to be those people. They're going to be like, oh hey, like well, I don't care what you're going on. Like this is what your dog's going on. Like get screw you, see you later. Like no, like we need to help you get through this so you can help your dog for the betterment of your dog. Like that now that's kind of where we're at in this world now. It is
Mm-hmm.
very we have now changed into which this is why dog trainers need to be I mean dog trainers need to be respected a lot more, and for the reasons of
The
what I
good
teach about
ones.
the good ones. I mean, there's obviously a bunch of shit ones out there, but like the good ones that are actually trying to do the right thing, like that's where like because like Katie said, like freaking you become a psychotherapist in the sense when you're trying to help people not necessarily through just the dog training problems, but their own health, like mental health problems.
And that's why we need to be so much more proactive and vocal. And I mean, you and I are. We talk about it on this show all the time and we will continue, but the mental health of the dog trainer. So let's say you're a dog trainer, you didn't sign up for this, meaning like you didn't realize that, like you just said, you're going to end up becoming a therapist. Like you became a dog trainer because why? I'm good with dogs. I like dogs. Yeah,
I
I get
hate
it.
people. I just want.
Oh my gosh, I see that all the time. I hate people. That's why I became a dog trainer. It's like, you should have got a job shoveling shit at the stable because that's the like the fart. Maybe you can get away from some people because no, dog training is working with people. And so let's say you got into this, you didn't know what you were signing up for, but hey, you got a mortgage to pay now. It is what it is. That's where the mental health of the dog trainer needs to be addressed because I know what I signed up for. I know what I'm in this for, and I have to catch myself. I find myself getting a little out of sorts, and I have to reel back because you know some people very close to me that spent a lot of time around me on a day-to-day basis, sometimes they'd see me on my phone and I'd put my phone down and I would look visibly different. And they'd be like, "What's going on?" I'm like, I need 10 minutes. I'm like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Oh, I mean, just a death threat." Or,
Yeah.
just someone telling me, someone talking about how they're going to tell the world I should never own a dog again. And someone trying to find out where I live so they can call local authorities. And some of these people close to me are like, what do you, what are you talking about, dude? I'm like, oh no, this is like, it happens. They're like, well, what'd you say to them? Well, I told them,
Let me pause you here real quick, AD. I'm gonna look in the mirror or look in this freaking camera. That is not okay. Don't be a douchebag. If you're not willing to say it to the face, don't say it at all. Because if you don't like you want to do that stuff like that, like we can get you. All right, go ahead.
it's real life. This
Yeah,
stuff happens. And the reason why people, um, because told them that their dog is at significant risk for hip dysplasia, pain, suffering, cruciate ligament tears because it's carrying more body fat than it needs to. Like that's the long-winded, polite way of saying you're killing your dog with food. But I
Yeah.
didn't say that. Like I'm just trying to like they asked for feedback on their dog and you give it to them, and now they say that you're an animal abuser. Um, because you have a pinch collar on a dog that has already been hit by a car once and survived, and now you're advocating the usage of various tools and training to teach that dog how to live in a human world. You're going to call the cops on me? I
Yeah.
mean, like, well, when you deal with that on a daily basis, I'm aware of it. I got my shit in order pretty much, right? It still impacts me sometimes. I have moments, and typically what happens is if I got some personal stuff going on that has me extra tack, like bandwidth. There we go. Bandwidth,
Yeah.
right? If my bandwidth is being occupied by a lot of stuff in other areas, I typically find I have a little bit more difficulty brushing off the toxicity from social media dog owners, because right now a lot of my mental energy of strength is going towards other much more relevant, important things. Because I happened in that moment to choose to be online, I subjected myself to the potential of
Yep.
weak ass motherfuckers talking shit to me. And all right, what about the dog trainer who didn't know that's what they were getting into? And they don't have the support system that I have. They don't have, I have great mentors. I have great friends, right? Like people I can talk to. And I still have my moments. What about the person who doesn't have that? They don't have that support structure. They might not have it in their personal life or their professional life. And they didn't know that's what they were signing up for. They
That's
need help. People aren't talking about it. I'm talking about it. I'm doing things about it. I got some things in the works. I'm working with some various mental health professionals and trying to put some, without giving away too many details, putting some things together to be able to support the world of dog trainers who are needing it more than ever, because we live in an incredibly toxic culture right now. And that burden is being carried by people who then they get done and like they don't have the mental energy for their family, or they like if a dog trainer tells me they don't know what a vacation is, I'm like, are you bragging? Because that's not a flex, that's not a brag. Like, what do you mean you haven't gone out with your wife, your husband, your kids, like your friends? If you're saying like, what are you doing for you? Like,
it's already a hard industry in the sense of like we work with dogs, and I said this in like one of my last the other like thing we're doing, like I had said this the last time. I was like, when you work with dogs, dogs are living beings. You're taking care of someone's living, like, and in some cases like that's like their child, right? So you have to carry that weight. Like that, like, oh, I have Fluffy
yep,
for
that's
this
real.
long, and like, and this is like, it's not like it's just like Fluffy like a dog. It's just like, like this is somebody's everything for some people, and that's something that's a burden.
I
And
respect
then
that.
yeah, and then when you go into online and like, you go online and people are just like basically like what KD said, like, oh, you put an e-collar on the dog, you're prong calling the dog, or like, whatever, or just even like just talking shit, like, whatever it may be. You have to understand that we already are working 24/7. We don't have like, we when at least when I say like I don't got days off, when I say I don't got days off, I say that for the purpose of being like, be relatable to other dog trainers so they understand that they're not alone. Like, hey, like I get it, I understand, we're here together, we're doing this together, I'm getting through it, you can get through it. But it's still in the same sense, it's not a healthy, like, I mean, like I like grinding, like that's my life, like I like that, that's what I feel
Mhm.
comfortable in. That's not necessarily the perspective everyone should live in, but that's just what works for me. But it's still not healthy for everybody to go online and be just like, like just shit on everybody just because you're sitting there with your Shih Tzu and bleep. You're sitting there with your Shih Tzu, or you have your things like that, and you like dog shitting on your carpet and like being whatever, and like, you have this whole ideal of what dog training should be. it's still not okay to say things like that to people because you never know when someone's on the brink of something. You never know that one comment when you say something to somebody could trigger something different and change, if not change, or end that person's life. So it's very important that, you know, and this is why I like this podcast that we're talking about. It's very important that we discuss this stuff so everyone can see it and have more accountability for themselves. Write your comment 10 times before you post it. Think about it. If that's something that you want someone to say to yourself, then okay, fine. But for the most part, in dog training is it's not necessarily like we talked about this whole entire podcast. Dog training is not dog training anymore, at least. Now it's a lifestyle of helping people, being a psychotherapist, as Katie said, all these different things. Like, there's so much more that goes into it. So just being aware of that situation and staying self-aware of that situation. I'm not shitting on you guys for saying what you had to say. Obviously, it's social media. Say what you want to say on everything you're doing. But in general, be aware of what you're saying and what you're doing because you can affect drastically someone's life.
Boom.
Bang.
That's real. That's real, homie.
Yeah, right.
That's real. But what we're gonna this is not gonna be something that is a one and done conversation, especially when we talk about helping dog trainers. That'll be something because I mean we got all different types of people that listen to the show, from competitive dog handlers to pet dog owners to competitive dog trainers to pet dog train. Like we got a wide audience here, and we're gonna hit on this stuff again because it affects a lot of people. Well, I mean, a lot of people.
It's the underlying issue that most people don't talk about. Everyone wants to talk about the flash and the glam and all these other things. I think the good thing between what we have is we talk about everything because we don't care about getting that dirt. Like we're good with getting in that dirt.
Yep.
And that's what's the most important thing. So I got to do our sponsor stuff real quick.
Yeah, you do.
The Canine University. Make sure you check them out. It's the Canine U. RayAllen.com/K9SL. Make sure you use the Primal K9 code, the Primal 10 code to get your discount. KD, Socratic
K9, all spelled out.com. That's where you can find out about how I help dog owners, or you can just message me on Instagram. That's a really good way because I'm on that. And that's just at KD Matthews with 1 T. Whether you're a dog owner or a dog trainer, get at me.
All right, brother. Well, shoot, man. I gotta close this out.
Yeah.
Any closing statements for yourself?
Nope. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, brother. I'm a really shitty friend. I didn't text you at all.
No. Oh, you didn't hear me talking. I was talking about that. Like I was on social media. Like, everybody, if I love you and you love me, don't send me a Happy New Year text. I already know you mean it. I don't need my phone blowing up over things I already know. So you are completely off the hook because I sure as shit didn't send any to you.
Well, shit, I just want to let you know, Happy New Year. I love you, brother.
I love you too, man.
This is a fun time. As always, I just there's so many things going on, but for everybody else, this is the New Year's whatever 2023 episode of Drinks and Dogs. Lots of stuff going on. But yeah,
See you next time.
Subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Again, we do this for free. We just want to make sure we put this out there. So help us out, share with your friends.
Bada boom, bada bing.
Bang.